right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets Podcast. I have Dr. Jill Wade with me from Texas. Jill, how are you doing?
I am great. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, you bet. Thanks for joining us. Really excited about this. This is a little bit different episode than I do normally because we're going to talk a little bit more about the financial side of the business. But I'm really excited because Jill has so much experience as a practicing doctor, plus the financial expertise. So I think it's going to be a really, really unique conversation, and I'm excited to get into it with you, Jill. So why don't you take a minute or two and just provide some background, some context for our readers, what your background is and how you got to where you are right now.
Oh, wow. Opening up the big bag of worms right off the bat. Okay. Well, I won't tell you how old I am, but I bet you'll be able to figure it out here really soon. I am a practicing dentist in Frisco, Texas, and I have been practicing for about 27 years. And what I want to share with you about that is that marketing has been a huge part or piece of my growth out there. When I first started in Frisco, there were only 14,000 people. And now there are over 200,000 people. So needless to say, throughout this journey of my practice out there, I have seen and felt and participated in the gamut of marketing from top to bottom, left to right. I have a true belief that there's marketing and branding, and I love it when I'm able to blend both of those things together, because in a community, when you're trying to, insert yourself into a growing community or an already grown community, they need to see you, feel you, understand who you are before they can say yes to what you're providing for them. So yeah. I feel like that whole concept of getting clear of who you are as a doctor, who your practice is, what is it that you love, what is it that you're passionate about, what services are you actually good at, and then how are you going to build that into the practice in your marketing and your branding? Because, I never think of other dentists as being my competition. I really don't.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's always plenty of clientele out there to make all of us have great, successful practices.
Yeah.
I feel like the competition is more like the cars, the boats, the vacations, the schooling, and all those kinds of things that they have to choose from. So I just believe you got to get really clear on who you are, and then be authentic in your marketing and your branding.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it any better. And that's something that we talk about a lot on the show, is just knowing, like you said, what you're good at. What is that, for whom can you knock it out of the park every single time? That's kind of what you want to set it up as, just so that you're getting those people in, you understand them, you understand their pain points, you can speak to them and articulate that effectively so that they know that you know all about them, and it can feel their pain and their challenges, and then you can deliver on that. So,
right.
Yeah. So
you for expertise.
Yeah.
And that's how I always have felt like it's my expertise, and it's my job to actually share that expertise with you. That's why you're there. That's why you're paying us.
Yeah.
And that's my job, is to share the expertise. You get to choose as a patient. It's your mouth what you want to do with it, but it's my job to share with you my expertise.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that actually came up in a conversation that I had with a prospective client a little bit ago, when they were talking about that. And it just, the way that I look at it, it's just like you said, Jill, like it's incumbent upon us as and I'm not a provider, so I shouldn't say us, but upon providers to share their
to help us provide.
Okay, thank you. No, but to share that expertise, because people come to you with the trust that you are going to do that. They trust the experience that you've had, the schooling that you've had, all the patients that you've seen in the past, to share what you know, because they're not going to do that. They can't diagnose themselves. They can't do all that themselves. And so they come to you with that trust that you're going to share with them the best recommendations possible, basically. So if it's really, it's incumbent upon you to share those recommendations. I know some providers out there are a little hesitant to do that. They don't want to come across as salesy or too promotional or pitchy or anything like that. But the reality is, you have a moral obligation to share your recommendations, because they're depending on that.
Absolutely. And you actually, I think, just hit the nail on the head, which is when you come at it from the thought process of actually sharing what you know, then I believe it comes from the heart, that's felt, that's appreciated from, their standpoint on the other side of the chair. And then you actually don't look like you're selling.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
You're just being authentic, right? You're
Yeah.
just sharing your knowledge and you're partnering together. When people are partnering together in dentistry, it's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it really is. It really is. And it's so, yeah, it's just that climax, where it can come and they need the help. You can provide the help and everyone wins in the end. It's cool how that works.
And so I'll twist it just a little bit to finances for a second.
Yeah.
Because I also believe that if you, as the provider, come into the office and if you are really having some financial issues, you're coming at things and at business from a place of lack, they can smell it.
Yeah.
They can smell it. And so I just am always making the team and making us always feel like we are in a place of abundance. The business is doing great. The abundance is there. We have more than enough patients and clientele if we'll just serve them properly. And when you kind of come at that, it's just an energy thing, right? And that energy comes out. It's some people call it manifesting, some people call it the law of attraction. But when you really create your business that way, you support your team that way, that's what comes across. And so again, it doesn't feel like sales, marketing, sales, all those kinds of things. They all flow together, right? And we were just kind of mentioning the fact that it's kind of like the mouth. The mouth is a part or piece of the body. But we can't just separate the mouth and start thinking of only the teeth or only the gums.
Right.
It's a whole body. There's a whole person there in front of you. There's a whole confidence level sitting there talking to you, a real live person. Same thing with our business. There's not just one part or piece. You could spend all the time and effort in marketing that you wanted to, but if you have, let's say, systems in place or team members that are not maybe trained properly to talk to people on the phone and convert, then you've put a lot of money and effort into marketing and maybe not even getting the right people in the chair. So I think of it as a whole picture, a whole comprehensive picture, just like we do in dentistry.
Yeah, no, and that's so interesting that you mentioned that, Jill, because that's something that you hit on, something that I've been thinking a lot about and we've wanted to talk about on the show too, is just the importance of the proper mindset, and just how that there is that. Because I think a lot of people, and I would lump myself into this category, I've definitely grown over the past years, but I've been kind of hindered by my mindset at times, where you're like, oh, that's not for me, or that's not who I am, or whatever the case may be. This is little tiny statements that kind of weasel their way into your mind and can wreak havoc if you entertain them at all. But so talk to me about that. Do you feel like you've always had a good money mindset in that approach, or has it taken you some time to progress or to evolve that mindset?
I will not say I have been perfect. No, not at all. There is this thing in life that I call the tightrope, right? And sometimes we are just in balance and we're on that tightrope. We can just walk right across and it's no problem. Then at other times in my life, I've started spinning some plates while, walking the tightrope.
Yeah.
I was a single mom for 10 years of twin girls. And let me tell you, during that period of time of my life, there were a lot of, dropping plates and the tightrope that just wasn't there. The mindset kind of faltered at different times. But man, all I can say is this, is that all you can do is try, right? But as soon as you kind of figure out that your mindset or the business may not be functioning quite the direction that you want it to, or your results aren't showing, the bottom line is not showing where you want it to be. So guess what? It's time to step back. It's time to do a reset, a check, not only on your own mental mindset, but maybe your team as well.
Yeah.
I, as a woman, always felt like my team was very much a reflection of where my own mindset was.
Yeah.
So if I found myself irritated or wondering why everybody was in such blame mode, then guess what I had to do? And it's not fun to do, but I had to take the mirror and I had to turn it around and I had to look at myself and decide where was my mindset,
Mhm.
because they are a reflection of what's going on energy wise from me.
Yeah. No, that's such an important thing to remember, so if you're, yeah, I mean, you can put this in any situation, but especially from a marketing standpoint, if you're marketing minded as a provider and a leader of the practice, you're going to see the trickle down effects of that. But if you're not, yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit tougher for you in that regard. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And here's the thing, in all aspects of life, especially in the dental practice, if you aren't going to step up and be the leader, if you're not going to set the clarity, if you're not going to set the culture, somebody else is.
Yeah.
Somebody else is going to step into that place, and it may not be in the direction that you wish it was going, or that you would like for it to go. So it's again, it's all kind of intertwined in there, isn't it? And my big thing, and man, I mean, let's be real honest. I mean, the last couple of years have been crazy.
Yeah, very unusual.
Crazy unusual. I've had, similar things happen to me in the past where, I practiced through 9/11. I practiced through the IT bust kind of in the DFW Metroplex, where kind of middle to upper class really had some financial issues.
Yeah.
But this that we have experienced through the pandemic has been some craziness. And nothing that any of us could have prepared for. But I do think what it has done, it has allowed a lot of us to realize that we do need to take a more active CEO kind of role in our practices, put that CEO hat on, and treat it more like an investment than a lifestyle business. For many of us before, the pandemic and COVID hit, and maybe we got shut down, we really designed our business, our marketing strategy, just our goals, everything about it was just enough to create the type of lifestyle that we wanted to live.
Right.
Our house, our cars, our children, our vacations, with enough money to maybe set aside and save correctly, for the rainy day. Then all of a sudden the rainy day came and we were like, holy cow, I probably do not have enough money saved to make it for a 3-month period of time when no money's coming in, no patient. I have no idea when I open up the doors if the patients are going to come back in. How long is it going to take me to get back to where I was? Right.
Yeah.
So I think it was this big aha moment for a lot of us that something likely needed to change. And so for me personally, that's when I'd already stepped into the investment thought process just because of my age. But when COVID happened, I really turned it on and said, what do I need to do differently? Because I never want this to happen to me again. I never want to feel like this ever again. And so for me, that moment in time, I said, dang it, I am committed to diversifying. I do not want all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
This practice is wonderful. I love it. I want it to be all that it can be, but I can't be the only egg in the basket, and it can't be the only egg in the basket. And so that's really where I really pushed in, if you want to say, went all in and pushed into educating myself more in financing, investing, diversification. I definitely think right now I find more peace in being a little more liquid. And so that's where all of my kind of extra time started being focused and attention to, and it just, that's what I'm here for. To just kind of share that kind of information with people. I find financial advisors are fantastic, and I have several. But I also find that just like in dentistry and specialties, they only know what they know.
Yeah.
Thank them for that. I'm blessed to have their fabulous knowledge, but they don't know everything.
Mhm.
And so you are the best leader of your own financial goals and what you want out of life and where you're headed and what kind of legacy that you want to leave for your family.
Yeah.
And I also feel that my legacy to my family is very, very important to me, as I shared as to many of your listeners. But I also feel like I have a responsibility for the legacy of the practice
Yeah.
because I love these patients, taken 25 plus years with these patients.
Mhm.
I don't want to just close my door at the end of my time and leave them wondering where they're going to go and who's going to take care of them. So I feel like depending on people's age, we need to start thinking earlier about the succession or the legacy of the practice and how
Yeah.
we're going to keep it strong and keep being able to take great care of our patients.
Yeah. So so you pandemic hits, so you're like, I'm never going to do this again. I never want to go through that again. I'm going to set things up differently. So what were some of those? You mentioned education, spending some extra time educating yourself. What were some of those first steps that you did?
So one of the first steps that I did was really look and hey, I love 401ks. I
Mhm.
still have 401ks. I think you need to be diversified. So everybody hear me say that. I am not saying one answer fits all.
Yeah.
But I also realized that I needed to become more liquid. I needed to be able to utilize some of my money a little bit easier. And being able to take out of a 401k, depending on your age, can be very challenging.
Yeah.
And so for me, I decided to switch a little bit and not put all my eggs in one basket of a 401k for my future and for my savings. I decided to actually be able to take some of that money, pull that out, and create something. And again, even my financial advisors, when I'm telling them this, they're like, what? What are you doing? Why would you do that? Like, what are you thinking? And it's because they just didn't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so I was able to learn a lot about something called infinite banking. And it's basically becoming your own bank, taking your money, placing it in what we call a whole life policy. And that is like creating your own bank, your own savings account for you to be able to go in and borrow from whenever you need it. So if I go in and buy a laser or some type of investment of a new technology in the office, rather than going to go lease that or to go purchase that and have my money only be used once to pay that big piece of equipment off, I actually borrow it from my own bank. And then I can pay myself back. The business can pay myself back with interest to my account. So it's sitting there. I can use it multiple times over the years, multiple different ways. But I also get this other huge benefit of there actually being a life insurance policy behind that, which is growing and continuing to grow over time. One of these years, when I decide to retire, I can actually pull from it like a salary
Mm.
with no taxing.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
so this is a concept that we don't talk about a lot, but it's been a concept that's been around for years. Walt Disney actually started all of his big projects from something like this,
Mm.
Pampered Chef. Like there's a lot of people who have used this concept. It's just not a concept that is talked about very much. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but
Mm.
talking about money and investing and how much money you have is like taboo. Like nobody wants to talk about it. They'll
Right.
talk about sex, they'll talk about,
Mm.
golf, they'll talk about food, being a foodie, but talking about money to each other is just like weird. It's just like this no. And I just want to say, like, it's okay. My idea doesn't have to be correct for you. Yours
Yeah.
doesn't have to be correct for me. Everybody has a different upbringing about money and risk and all that kind of stuff. But somewhere along, we have to start having the discussion.
Yeah.
We just have to open up the doors to having discussion and allowing ourselves to learn. We all started dentistry. Did we know anything about dentistry when we truly first started? Maybe a few people that maybe were assistants or lab technicians before they
Mhm.
started dental school. But we went to dental school to do what? to learn a skill. Well, I didn't learn a skill about investing in college or in dental school. I didn't learn it even when I started my own practice. It was a school of hard knocks. And man, I made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
I wasted a lot of money. I was taken advantage of many a times because I didn't understand what I needed to understand. So what I'm saying is it's okay if you don't know a lot about it right now, but just if nothing else, commit to learning. You're already a learner by heart. You do that all the time in dentistry and new services and making the best veneer prep ever and all the cements and all the things that we love to learn about. But realize that moving forward, your legacy is going to be based on how much time and effort you put into learning about your finances in other ways. So that's what I'm hoping they're here today listening to this, and this might spark some interest for people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's where it comes from, right? You hear other people talk about their experiences, and that, yeah, plants a seed, and eventually it can, if it's the right one, then it'll nurture and grow, and then you can act on that for sure. Yeah, that's a cool story. Well, I was going to ask about that. Well, and the reason too, I forgot to mention this kind of at the outset of the episode, but for those that are wondering, oh, this is a marketing podcast, I mean, I wanted to bring Jill in here because of her unique experience in this, and we talked before the show just on how critical marketing is to your practice. We've talked about that already. And once you get your practice to where you want it, now this is where this conversation really fits in. Is where now what can you do with your money to make sure that it's working for you, that it's paying for your future, and not just the lifestyle that you want currently, but leaving the legacy, like Jill was saying. I love that, both your personal legacy as well as a practice legacy. So yeah, now, so some people are listening to this, they're like, okay, I want to get started. I'm going to start educating myself. Where would you recommend that they go to do that? What are some of those maybe resources that I don't know if you provide resources or places that you'd recommend for people to get started?
Absolutely. So this is how passionate I am about it. I love dentistry, and trust me, I am super passionate about it. So I'm not going anywhere as far as the dental community goes. But also, I have found a ton of passion with this as well, especially with women. Women are drawn to just my willingness to share and authenticity about it. I don't hide anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly not perfect. But what we did is, I believe in this so much that I actually am a licensed insurance agent and have started my own financial business.
Very cool.
In hopes that, yes, I can be a voice. I am not a specialist. I don't pretend to be a specialist, but I bring other people into our team, just like we do in dentistry. We create our teams. We have our oral surgeons. We have our specialists in periodontics. And you create a team to help service the patients. It's the same thing for us. We have started Progressive Finance, and that's what it is. It's a progressive look on finances that maybe are some new ways to think about things. And we just start off with the easy stuff. I mean, number one, anybody can just start off. You have to know your numbers, mm-hmm. right? That you have to know your numbers. If you want to grow, or if you're okay with where you are, but you're still living paycheck to paycheck and cash flow is hard, you have to understand your numbers and understand what your BAM is, or your bare ass minimum of mm-hmm. what you have to be producing. And then you have to have a strategy of how you're going to move forward with that. And all I'm going to say is it's just numbers. It doesn't have to be emotional. It's just numbers. It's factual. So once we understand your numbers and you understand your numbers better, plus you have to find your clarity, because if you don't have clarity on where you want to go, then you don't know what number you're trying to shoot for. Once you know the number that you're shooting for, once you know what you have to have, there's this thing called a gap, right? And that's the solution. That's where the solution begins to get fun. I call it creative. It makes it more fun for me. And so this is where you get to start to thinking about, okay, what is that gap? What is that actual number? And what can we do to each day consistently be able to get that number? To me, that's how you back into the marketing plan.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do from a marketing standpoint to back into that plan? You may not have any extra money at first for your marketing plan, but how can you get to this point so that you can then add, a marketing dollar amount to get to this point, and on and on and on, growing to where you want to be for whatever your goal is.
Yeah, no, it's so true. The numbers, and once you get into the numbers, for those that are not in, you don't feel comfortable in finances or just looking at figures and stuff like that, I'll just say this, the more you get into it, the easier it becomes. Just like anything in life, the more you do it, the more proficient you become, the easier it is, the more you understand, and the more you're comfortable with it too. I remember one of my first companies out of college, that I've started lots of different little companies, lots of trial and error in my life. My wife always jokes that I should do a book of like business cards that I've had, because I've started so many different companies, but
entrepreneurial spirit right there.
Yes, 100%. And one of them was, I remember it was a photography company right out of college. And I remember it just kind of goes back to what we were talking about initially, or on the outset, about the mindset. It's just, I remember I was so scared to charge. It was like $500 for a wedding or something like that, because I didn't feel like I had the experience. I didn't feel like I was the expert. I was more than happy to work hard and do all that stuff, but the money part was not comfortable for me. And then if fast forward a couple of years, and I was charging like $5,000 for a wedding, and you get comfortable. You start to recognize all of the value that you provide. And I just share that because it's the elasticity of our mindset, that it really is something that you can work on and you can grow and become more comfortable with. So yeah, that's my plug, is just get started with it, and you'll get more and more comfortable as time goes on.
Right. It's so true. And, we have all these study clubs for dentistry, right? And we study about all these procedures and all these things that we're going to do. And I think that's brilliant. And there's absolutely a place for all of that. But whatever happened to the study clubs for the business of dentistry?
Mm-hmm.
We hire our consultants.
Yeah.
I love my consultants. They've been great to me, systems, helping me understand numbers and all of that. Again, though, you have to be around some other practitioners, some other business owners, to really be able to start thinking like a CEO. And if
Yeah.
you never spend any time in any study club, if you want to say, to think about that kind of stuff, then you're going to get exactly what effort you put into it, right? You're going to
Yeah.
pretty much stay about the same. So how much do you want to change? It's kind of motivating in the sense that,
Yeah.
if you really want to change, you can. You just got to start putting in the effort towards that. And through Progressive Finance, we have our own like private little Facebook group, and that's where we meet, and that's where we talk about things. And I'm super excited that here, probably in the next couple of months, I'm launching something called the Boardroom, which is for female dentists, where we're really, literally, those who are really excited about getting into that next level, we're going to start meeting together like a boardroom and
Cool.
really talking about those things, those taboo things that honestly we never got taught as women.
Yeah.
Right or
No.
wrong, we just never did. Those
Yeah.
conversations weren't had by our dads with us, or the majority of us. And so this is our time to get to have those kinds of conversations and bring in experts to come and talk to us. And that's how I feel like we all kind of progress and get to have fun along the way.
Yeah.
And on top of everything else, like you said, it's that mindset. It's not exactly about what we're doing, but it's that mindset. And when you start to change that mindset, we start to get educated, then guess what happens? Law of attraction.
Yeah.
Abundance.
Right. No, and that it reminds me of early on in my entrepreneurial career, I remember reading the book The E-Myth by, I don't know if you've ever read that, but Michael Gerber. It's a fantastic book that helps restructure your mindset about your business, and because at the time mine was very much like you were saying, Jill, where it's very much a lifestyle business. This was that photography company that I'd started, and I loved it. It was like, oh, cool. I shoot during the weekends. I have pretty much the week free. And I wasn't heavy on, hey, I'm not just trying to pack my schedule. It's just, I have enough. I'm totally cool. You know, we've young kids, so we were just hanging out at home. But this really changed that, to see that there was something much better, you know, because the lifestyle is very, very attractive. You know, I mean, you're thinking, oh, this is great. But what changed for me, looking at through that book and through obviously other resources as well, is just, you can set it up so that you still have that feel of a lifestyle, but you're removing a lot of those like kind of not responsibilities, but you're having your systems do a lot of the work for you. You're setting it up like a franchise, so that if you were to sell it, it's ready to go. You could plug anyone into any position because you've written out all the job descriptions and the how-tos and the manual for that. And it's so empowering. Like, it's crazy.
Okay, I have to share it with you because I'm not kidding you. I pulled this up on my phone because you will not believe it. You just said about the E-Myth and
Yeah.
Michael. Guess what I'm listening to right now? I don't.
Oh,
You
it's a
can't
little
see it.
bright, but oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
Awakening the Entrepreneur Within. Guess who?
Oh, good old Michael.
That's his next good one right there. If you haven't, download it. It's awesome. I'm about halfway through it, chapter 9.
Well, and that's kind of,
think about what you're feeding yourself, right? I mean, obviously your listeners are feeding themselves good information. They're listening to you, right? But we have to really think about that right now more than ever, especially after COVID. Like, who we're listening to, what we're hearing, what we're reading, what we're getting influenced by is really so much negativity out there.
Yeah.
So much negativity out there. So probably one of my biggest things is just to be really careful of who you're listening to and what you're listening to right now. And if you're not sure, then really stop and think about it, and only listen, watch, and read something that's positive and that's putting you in the direction that you want to go in. There's only a certain amount of time and energy in our days, and we need to fill it up with as much good stuff as we possibly can.
Oh, 100%, you know, and that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast. It's just like you were saying, it's just, you just want to share your experiences, because there are so many things out there that bring people down, that make them not want to continue on. You know, they can kind of wallow in that self-pity or that despair that, hey, I tried this marketing campaign, it doesn't work. Facebook doesn't work. Google ads don't work, whatever the case may be. You hear this all the time, but then they don't go anywhere. You know, they just sit there and they don't progress. They don't get any better. They pump the brakes and they stay in parking mode, you know, forever. Whereas other people, they take the same lumps, you know, and they use those as fodder for getting better and for refining their skills. And now you look at them and they're on the freaking Autobahn, you know. I mean, they're cruising because they figured that out, you know. I mean, and that's and it's so much of it comes down to how you spend your time and who you spend your time with. So I couldn't agree more with that.
Amen. Amen.
Okay. So I had a couple more questions. I know time is just cruising by, so I don't want to keep you here forever.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so let's talk about what are the biggest pitfalls that dentists fall into with their finances, with their money, with their investments. What are you seeing, you know, and why is it so common for them to get tripped up by those?
Well, first of all, I think they don't know their numbers. I think this is very important. So they don't know their numbers, so they start living beyond their means.
Yes.
And if they really knew their numbers, they would probably consider a more economical car purchase than the extraordinary purchase of the car. And then when their family is asking them to, hey, let's go on a family vacation, they actually don't have that little extra set aside so that the family vacation doesn't hurt so bad.
Yeah.
Because remember, it's not just about paying for the family vacation. It's about you're not at work, and so you're not able to produce, and or somebody else is in there working, but your income isn't coming in through the practice. So it's a double whammy. It's a double hit, right? So I believe knowing your numbers and doing what we call an intentional life design, which means what is it you sit for? It's it's like creating your master plan, if you want to say, or if you were building your house, think of it like building the blueprint. What is your master plan for your life and for your business so that they all work together and that the numbers are there so that when you do get to go on vacation, guess what? You get to enjoy it. You're not worried about it. You're not worried about what's going on back at the practice because you've already planned for it. You
Mhm.
pre-planned for it, right?
Yeah.
And um, it's not that much. It's you just have to stop. You have to stop and actually get organized and plan. So I think that's the biggest pitfall is that they don't know their numbers and the plan's just not there. You never take the time to actually plan. Um, it's okay if you don't understand what a balance sheet is and what a P and
Yeah.
L form is. It don't let not knowing that kind of stuff stop you from planning. We can teach you that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's just numbers, and what it does is it just identifies some of the gaps in the practice. And there are easy ways to just create more revenue without having to set your butt down into the chair
Mhm.
long,
Yeah.
right? Called
Yeah.
delegation. We have great teams and we can delegate properly to them. We can look and be sure that um, that your fees are proper for the value that you're providing for your patients. Many of us underestimate our value, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But we can correct that. So I think those are probably the biggest things. Yeah. And I think you kind of touched on it a little while ago too. It's just like some sometimes it just happens that we most of us that are driven towards dentistry are of a certain personality type, right? We are typically, if you know the disc profile, we're typically an SC kind of group of people.
Mhm.
We like stability. We like our our things. We like everything to go as planned,
Oh yeah.
and we don't necessarily like conflict or rocking the boat too much. So, what tends to happen is we can be a little bit on the procrastination side of things. And in what I would say is true business, and you've probably done this because you sound like you have an entrepreneurial spirit about you. Entrepreneurs know that if you sit still for too long, you're actually not growing, you're going backwards.
Mhm.
And so, in the spirit of entrepreneurialism, no matter what disc profile you are, you have to ultimately take action. You can't sit around too long, rest on your laurels or what you have done or what you have been, providing or producing. If you're too sedimentary and too, you just not always looking forward, then you're actually not growing at all. You're actually going backwards. And so I think that's another pitfall that we do. And then what happens? You feel like the hamster wheel all the time because you're just trying to catch up.
Yeah.
You put real, clear, defining goals, targets, communicate that well with your team, then guess what? You don't feel like you're the only one on the hamster wheel trying to pull everybody along.
Yeah. Well, and it can tend to make I mean, there's a cool book that I read years ago called The Game of Work. And it's got
Mm.
kind of that, and that's where goals can come into play is it makes it more of this game type of environment where you're just seeing, how are you performing, and how well are you playing the game, according to your goals that you've set. And it's a good way for other people, especially team members, to see how they're performing, because ultimately that's what we want that's what employees really want is they want to know how the game is being played and how to keep score. I mean, those are kind of the two things, because other than that, they're just like, I don't know if I mean, they're worried that they might lose their job. They don't know if they're doing well, performing well, or if they're not, and that's kind of all they care about. So that's what where these goals and things can come into play is really, defining exactly how to play the game. These are the rules. These are what we look for. These are the outcomes that we're shooting for. Let's get started, kind of deal. So
Absolutely. I kind of encapsulate all of that with what you just said as into the culture. What is the
yeah,
culture? How am I going to get reviewed? How am I going to make my boss happy? How am I going to stay happy?
Yeah.
Is it stressful at work? Is it not stressful at work? Do I have enough energy when I go home to give to my children and my family? Or am I so stressed throughout the day that I have nothing left at the end of the day? I really don't think people want to work that way.
Yeah.
People want to, and I love this. I'm gonna have to look at this book, The Game
Mhm.
of Work. I love
Mhm.
that concept. Because that, I don't remember, I think it was the ADA did a survey about what did our teams want more of. And I think for most of us, we thought it was money.
Yeah.
We thought they wanted more per hour, and it was money. And although that's very important, that was not what came up on the survey. That came in as fifth.
Wow. Fifth.
Fifth. And it was a lot more about their satisfaction and less stress, and just their overall kind of attitude about work and teamwork.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that fits right into that. Yeah, definitely check the book out if you have. It's pretty short, if I remember. It's kind of a smaller book, 6 by 6 ish. And if I'm remembering correctly, don't quote me, but I feel like it was a pretty short book, but it was,
I'm gonna go
yeah,
find it.
good
I'm gonna go
concept.
for
Good
sure.
concepts. So one question too that you brought up in our, before we started on the little pre call was, let's talk a little bit about, finances as it pertains to marketing, and you brought up, okay, there's different stages, and there's lots of ways to do it, right? There's so many ways to do it, and there's not a single right answer. But what would be some of your recommendations for practices? This is a question you get all the time. How much do I allocate to marketing? Is it a flat fee? Is it something else? What are your thoughts on that, Jill? And explain your reasoning
Yeah.
behind it.
I mean, I usually have a reason to my marketing. Therefore, I don't necessarily at all times keep the same percentage. I may fall in a certain range, and if I fall outside of that range, upper or lower, then I ask myself, did I really have a reason for that? Of course, my answer is always yes, but I don't mind spending more on marketing if it's the right season of the practice.
Yeah.
So, for example, my season right now is to grow the legacy aspect of the practice. Because of that, I have brought in more doctors. And so, because of that, I need to spend more money on marketing because I need the public to see and understand more doctors now.
Yeah.
Not just me. It was a little bit easier when it was just me. Now I need to spend kind of close to the same amount of money per doctor in order to let them be able to be out there in the public and shining, and for people to connect with them. So
Yeah.
for my growth mode right now, growth mode sometimes takes more money from a marketing budget than a budget like we said earlier. Let's say there was a period of time when I was pregnant, I was the only doctor, and I was having my twins. To me, at that moment, that was not the time to spend more on my marketing. I just held steady. Why?
Mhm.
Because I wasn't even there. I was in the hospital for a month. I wasn't even there to take care of extra new patients at the time. I just needed to hold steady. And then I could bounce back again in a couple of months when everything was kind of settled, and then I could put more money into the marketing. So I believe there are seasons in our practice, and I don't necessarily mean, well, sometimes I do. Sometimes I do mean like seasonal things,
Yeah.
right? I think January is an amazing time to put more money into marketing,
Mhm.
but you have to make that decision usually in December in order to hit it for January.
Yeah.
But so yes, there are truly monthly seasonal times where I think it's great to put more money into them. But when I'm talking about season, I'm talking about the season of your practice. Are you new? Do you need a lot of new patients in order to um, get them into your practice, because you're in that type of growth mode, because you can only find dentistry to produce if you have people in the chair. And so that's what I'm saying. Be really specific on the marketing. That's not necessarily the time to, spend it on something else. You literally need new patients.
Yeah.
And that should be the marketing dollars that you focus on. Other times, just like right now, I'm looking at trying to allow the public to understand the other doctors. So that's kind of where my money is going, is to promote them, more promotional, more social media to get to know somebody,
Yeah.
which in return does bring new patients, but also my own current, practice is getting a feel for those new doctors so that they'll be comfortable with them when they come into the practice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's what I see with a lot of my clients too. Is so much of it does depend on where you currently sit, like you said, the season of your practice, and then the goals where you want to go. So some of them, I think of a couple off my head. One of them is purchased the practice a year and a half ago, is really trying to ramp up new patients so that she can add an associate within the next 2 to 3 years.
Mhm.
And so that helps inform her decisions on marketing and say, hey, I want to get 33 new patients a month, or 30 plus new patients a month. So I'm going to invest from here on out until I hit that. Another one, it's already has, he just opened a second location. And so he's, funneling all of his traffic to that second location to fill that up. And then, so on and so forth. So just so much of it depends on where you are currently, and then where you want to go, and so, and there's others too that are kind of in the twilight of their career, but they want to set it up so that they can sell the business, and that's where marketing can play a huge role, where if you have those systems in place and you can show consistent returns from those, you have a good process for acquiring new patients, then that's a huge asset when it comes to valuation, and potential suitors. So lots of fun stuff.
It is. And again, going back to knowing your numbers, there's never just one marketing strategy, right? So keep up with your marketing strategy, dollars spent per project, if you want to say. And then you must allow the team to understand how important it is for them to capture the information of exactly where did those patients come from. Where did they come from? Because if you don't understand if your investment is actually converting the patients to come in the door, then you have no way of making a decision if that was a good investment, if it needs to stop, if you double down and put more money into that, or what. But also remember, it's not just we don't just want physical bodies coming into the practice. Okay, people, like you want the right patients to come into the door, because you may have spent a lot of money to get a new patient in the door for the number, but if it's not the right patient, it may be costing you money. And so we've got to also monitor, are they the right patient, and how much dentistry comes out of that new patient? How much conversion into the right type of dentistry that you offer comes out of that patient? Because you may only have one or two that come from one certain marketing project, but they may be exactly the clients that you're looking for. They may be those full mouth rehab cases. They may be those veneer cases. And it's okay that you only got 2 rather than 10. But if they converted and they were the right type of patient, that's all that matters. But somebody's got to make sure they're looking at that information and evaluating the data. But you can't evaluate the data if the team doesn't capture it in the first place. So
and that's what you do need. That you need really good communication, because a lot of people want to just hand off marketing to an outside agency or something like that, and then just kind of set it, forget it, like they don't touch it after that. But there needs to be that two-way communication so that there's feedback from the practice that says, like you just said, Jill, I thought you explained that beautifully, where if this is not the right patient, they need to know, because we need to change the dials, we need to target different audiences, or whatever the case may be, to make some different, change the end results. Because if we don't want to just get patients to get, a patient is not a patient. The patient is, patient is not the same. What am I trying to say? But like a patient is not a patient is not a patient. Like they're not all the same, and so you gotta be very particular about that.
Absolutely. I also believe too that we talk a lot about the external marketing, right? The external marketing of trying to capture a whole new person. I'm just here to tell you, over the years, I've found internal marketing to be extremely important, and actually usually more cost effective as well, because those patients are already there. They already believe in you. They're already raving fans, and you want more of them.
Right.
Well, they hang out with more people like them.
Mm-hmm.
So don't forget how important internal marketing is as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a topic that should be like a whole series because it's so important. I totally agree with that.
It is.
Totally agree. Well, Jill, thank you so much for spending some time. I know I was all over the place, so thank you for adjusting on the fly. You're really good at that. Appreciate all your experience and the thoughts and the resources that you've shared. If people want to get in touch with you and learn more about what you guys are doing, what's the best way to do that?
Well, I think they should go check us out on Facebook at Progressive Finance, and go ahead and join our group, our little private Facebook group. I think it's fun. We'll shoot out lots of great information. We'll typically record, so you can always listen to it at other times. We have our website, which is progressivefinances.com. And of course, if that's hard and you can't remember that, just try to find me. I'm pretty findable on Facebook and LinkedIn. It's Jill Wade, and that's really easy to remember.
Yeah, that is easy. You got it easy. I have to spell out my last name, and half the time it gets written down incorrectly. So you got it easy, Jill.
Awesome.
No, well, I appreciate it. Again, thanks for coming on the show, and then we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.